Wednesday is the final exam, so if you start studying a little bit now, you'll have 2 full weeks to look over that material. I'm not talking about hardcore hours of time. I'm talking 15, 20 minutes, pull out test number 1, read through, do the questions, and that's about it. You know, I'm not talking massive, study sessions, just a little bit every night for the next 2 weeks. Just in thinking about the final, it is 100 questions, 1 point per question. There are no essays on the final, but there will be some pictures, maybe 1 or 2. I don't believe there's a whole lot on there at all. If you start studying today, you have 2 full weeks to study for the final. What I would do is I would stick with my exams as a study guide. If you take all 5 exams from the semester, that will give you 300 questions. There's only 100 on the final. So I think that will give you more than ample of a study guide. Plus you have all the old spring 2010 and some spring 2008 tests on D2L. You can knock yourself out with old test questions. If you feel like you've exhausted all your questions on the old test, then go back to the course pack and look over that. But I necessarily wouldn't start with that because it's kind of overwhelming as much material is in there. Everything from the course in lecture is on the test, not lab. So I'm not going to go and pull lab content or lab notes or anything of that sort. If it was covered in lecture, it's fair game. I do try to evenly distribute the questions over all the chapters, so I'm not going to pick on any one particular chapter. It is going to be an even spread from all chapters. Considering that this is a 10-chapter spread, you're looking at approximately, 10 questions per chapter. What I would do is I would go back to each chapter and say, okay, what are the 10 most important things that I've learned in this chapter? If I leave this course and a year from now somebody asks me about the digestive system or the heart, what are probably the 10 most important things that I learned about the way that system functions? If you can kind of strategize that way, I think you will have the final exam kind of geared up. So just one way to approach studying for the final. It is 20% of your overall lecture grade. If you consider the entire course grade, it's 15%. It does replace 1 lowest exam score, but that's icing on the cake. If your final is higher than 1 lowest exam score, D2L automatically kicks out and drops that exam and replaces it with the final. So if you're looking at your grades, you'll notice under the exams, I'll have another thing that says there, final exam copy. That's because I enter the score twice. It will only count twice if it actually gives you a better grade overall. It counts regardless 20%. It counts almost double if it helps you. Overall average, you're looking for around a 76.5. That's lecture and lab combined together. Like I mentioned before, if you're heading into the final with a 77 or 78, you have to nail the final with a 76.5. If you're heading into the final with an 80, you can actually score as low as a 62.5 on the final exam. So the higher your average is heading into the final, the lower you can go on the final and still pass the course. I'm in my office every morning, 8:15 to 9:15. If you want to come by and have a study session, a Q&A session, just want to come by and talk about grades or grade numbers, come by and we'll do that any morning that you like. Okay, so you all are the last day of finals. You're 9:30 to 11:30 that morning. I have another class that meets 12:30 to 2:30. I know most of you normally attend the 9:30 class, so if you plan on attending that 12:30, just give me a heads up. There's about 45 chairs in here, so if all of you come to the 12:30, where somebody's going to be standing, so just give me a heads up if you want to come to that later class.
Do you still have 45 students?
I have 54, I think, in total. So all of you could come and none of you could stand. Hey, if you want to take the test early, I know some of you want to get it over with. If you want to take it early, who's that, right? If you do, I do have a Monday Bio 210 at 11 and 2. I have a Wednesday Bio 210 at 9:30. So if you want to come on and you want to come just sit with my Bio 210 class and take the test, let me know, because I can certainly work you in Monday at 11, Monday at 2, Wednesday at 9:30. So here's how not to pass the final. I know we want to talk about how to pass the final. We don't want to do the opposite. But staying up all night the night before the final is probably a no-go because you're feeling tired. Being tired is like being drunk. We don't make good decisions. So if you have a good night's sleep, you're better off in taking the final on a good night's rest rather than staying up half the night studying. If you start the night before, it's guaranteed to get you confused. So if you start now, go home and just look over exam 1, spend the weekend looking over exam 2, you'll have plenty of time to go back and review all the old material. I would encourage you to avoid memorizing old test questions, because if you memorize it and you expect the question worded in a certain way and the answers to appear in a certain fashion, that's the best way to get you confused. So look more at the concept that's being addressed rather than actually memorizing the question. We know that these are two bad things to do, but when you're looking over the old test, look at why you might have missed a question. Did you change the answer? What made you change the answer? And did you go back and second guess yourself? Did you go back and say, wait a minute, flip back and erase and, re-guess and recalculate how you thought you approached that question? Think about that when you're studying for this final, when you're looking over old test questions. Here's the game that you got to play. You can know this information like the back of your hand, but if you get on the test and you second guess yourself and you change answers, you can take a really good grade and plummet that score. So you want to feel confident with the material and confident making the choices that you do on that final. So just a couple of things I wanted to mention to you there. And one more thing I posted on D2L right now is this grade spreadsheet. Now, if you have your lab average, if you have lab quizzes, all 4 lab exams, and if Kevin's your lab instructor, if he's posted that stuff for you, or if Chris is your lab instructor, if he's posted that, whatever, onto D2L, you're going to get a more accurate report here on what you need to pass the course. Let's say that you currently have an 80 average. Type it in, press enter. You can see that you're taking the final and score as low as a 62.5, and you'll still keep your C, because obviously a C is an 80 average at this point. Let's say you've got a 77 average. 77 average means that you have to have a 74.5 to pass the course. So you see that just 3 points on the overall average gives you a much wider window by which you can actually, I don't hate to say this, but you can actually fail the final if you've got a higher average. So if you're at 77, you've got to come in on your game to pass that final. If you're at a 75 currently, you need an 82.5, actually an 83 to pass the pass the overall course. And then if you get as low as a 70 heading into the final, it's actually mathematically impossible to pass the course. So to take the fifth test is actually to your advantage, because if you're looking to aim, 76.5 overall or better, that fifth test can actually give you the opportunity to come out with a passing grade. Here's the good news: if you're one of the ones sitting in here with a solid A, there you go. Come in, circle all A's or all D's on the final, and you can still pass. You can pass with a C, but not A, but at least it gives you a comfort level there that no matter what you do on the final, you're going to pass. So this spreadsheet is most accurate after you take last lab exam. All your lab grades were posted on D2L, and your last lecture exam is posted. So after all that stuff is posted, then this is a fairly accurate, within a few points, spreadsheet that you can play with. So it's up there now in D2L. It's in the announcements area. Feel free to download it and plug away. All right, since we have only today and Tuesday left, I thought I would just leave the test for you to look over. If you would like to talk to me about it, I'll be happy to sit with you and go over the test. But at this point, did you have any questions about our upcoming schedule or the test that you just took?
So are we going to get any material in our course pack for the next test that we're not going to?
We may be able to do that on some stuff, but a lot of it I'm counting on the fact that you've heard it from lab, so there may be a whole lot that we cross through. What I want to do is actually go back with you and pick up acid base from the beginning, and that would take you back to around page 134.
crystal on the wall, and the
I have a pencil.
map.
Mechanical puzzle?
I can't promise I'll remember their time. Huh?
No mechanical puzzle? That's too long for you. Got all that extra space, you don't know what to do with it.
This is my good pencil. I gotta fix it before the exam. I'm not kidding. That's why Carla does the writing test.
I understand.
Right, so this is actually page 134, this is where testing 5 material begins. And information in the textbook on acid-base balance, probably page 880 is a good place to start. 880, yeah. Back in Bio 210, you've probably heard a little bit about the pH scale. We're not going to really add any more information about it. All we want to do right now is just review how the pH scale is set up and where acids and bases are located. We know that 7 is a magic number. Why is it a magic number on the pH scale?
Neutral.
Neutral, good. Below 7 on the pH scale means that we have an acid. And as you head through, do those acids become stronger or weaker? Stronger, good. What it means to be a strong acid is the fact that this particular chemical releases more hydrogen ions in solution. As you approach 0 on the pH scale, those chemicals release the most hydrogen ions